In the summer of 1940, the world teetered on the edge of catastrophe. Nazi Germany, having swept across Europe with terrifying speed, now stood at the shores of the English Channel. France had fallen. The armies of Hitler seemed unstoppable. In London, the heart of the British Empire, fear and uncertainty hung thick in the air. Many believed that Britain's fate was sealed, that the nation would soon be forced to accept humiliating terms or face utter destruction. At the center of this storm stood Winston Churchill, Britain's newly appointed prime minister. Only weeks into his leadership, Churchill faced a cabinet divided and a people exhausted by war. Some of his colleagues, haunted by the memories of the First World War and the staggering losses it had brought, urged him to seek terms with Hitler. They argued that negotiation, however bitter, might spare Britain from devastation. The odds, after all, seemed insurmountable. The British Expeditionary Force had barely escaped at Dunkirk, leaving behind much of its equipment. The Luftwaffe was poised to unleash terror from the skies. Across the Channel, the swastika flew over Paris. But Churchill saw things differently. For him, surrender was unthinkable. He understood that the fight was not just for Britain's survival, but for the future of freedom itself. In those darkest days, he summoned the courage to stand firm, refusing to yield to the pressure mounting around him. His resolve was not born of blind optimism, but of a deep, unshakable belief in the British people and their cause. In meetings with his war cabinet, Churchill rejected any talk of peace negotiations. He knew that Hitler's promises could not be trusted, that any agreement would mean the end of British independence and the triumph of tyranny. Instead, he called for defiance, for unity, for the will to resist at all costs. It was during these tense discussions that he uttered words that would echo through history. If this Long Island story of ours is to end at last, let it end only when each one of us lies choking in his own blood upon the ground. These were not just words. They were a declaration of intent, a rallying cry to a nation under siege. Churchill's speeches during this period became legendary, not just for their eloquence, but for their power to inspire. He spoke directly to the hearts of his countrymen, reminding them of their heritage, their resilience, and their responsibility to generations yet unborn. He painted the struggle not merely as a battle for territory, but as a fight for civilization itself. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. His voice, steady and resolute, became a beacon of hope when hope was scarce. The decision not to surrender was far from easy. It meant bracing for the full fury of the Blitz, for rationing, for sacrifice, and for the very real possibility of invasion. Yet Churchill's refusal to negotiate peace sent a clear message to friend and foe alike. Britain would not bow, would not break, and would fight on, whatever the cost. This unwavering stance rallied the nation, steeled its resolve, and inspired resistance across occupied Europe. In the end, Churchill's gamble paid off. Britain stood firm, weathered the storm, and became a bastion of freedom in a world shadowed by tyranny. His refusal to surrender in 1940 changed the course of history, proving that even in the darkest hour, courage and determination can turn the tide.